Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Mr.Creepy N. So today's video is definitely going to creep you out. In this video, we're getting into 4 real rainy night encounters where the darkness, the wet, and the silence gave something or someone the perfect cover to get close. Before we begin, let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. If you enjoy this kind of content, make sure to like the video and subscribe. Alright, let's get into tonight's stories. I work night security at a logistics warehouse. I've done it for 6 years. I've walked dark buildings alone at 2 in the morning for 6 years and felt nothing. Not fear, not unease, nothing. I say that because I need you to understand the kind of person I am before I tell you what I found in my own bedroom. My shift ends at 6 a.m. By the time I drive home, shower, and get into bed, it's usually close to 7:30. My apartment is a 1-bedroom on the 2nd floor of an older building. Nothing fancy. Thin walls, loud pipes, a bathroom window that fogs up fast in cold weather. I live alone. I've lived alone for 4 years, and I've never once had a reason to feel uncomfortable in that space. That night, the night before this happened, I'd worked a double, 16 hours on my feet. I came home in the rain, barely ate, and was asleep before 8. I slept hard, the kind of sleep where you don't move, don't dream, don't surface. I woke up at 2:17 in the afternoon. The rain was still going outside. I could hear it on the window glass, that low, steady hiss. The room was dim, the curtains doing most of the work. I lay still for a moment, the way you do when you're not quite sure what woke you. That's when I saw it. My desk chair. I keep it at my desk, pushed in on the far wall. Always. I'm particular about it, because the wheels roll on the hardwood and it drifts if I don't push it in fully. I always push it in fully. It was next to my bed. Not close to my desk. Not halfway between, right next to my bed, turned to face me. Close enough that if someone had been sitting in it, their knees would have been a foot from mine while I slept. I didn't move for a long time. I stared at it. My brain did what brains do. I told myself I'd moved it half asleep, that I'd sat in it at some point and rolled it over without realizing. I do sometimes sit in it to pull my boots off. Maybe I'd done that and been too tired to notice where I stopped. I checked the floor near my desk, the dust on the hardwood near the wheels. There were 4 small circular tracks where the chair had been sitting for days. The kind of marks you only get from weight sitting still in one place for a long time. Those marks were at the desk, where the chair should have been. There were no wheel tracks between the desk and my bed. The chair had not rolled. It had been lifted and placed. My heart did something I can't describe. Not racing, more like it skipped a full beat and then resumed too carefully, like it was trying not to make noise. I sat up slowly. I looked at the seat of the chair. There was a shallow compression in the cushion, foam memory. The kind of indentation that takes a few minutes to rise back out after weight is removed. It was still partially pressed down. Someone had been sitting in that chair recently. I got out of bed on the far side, away from the chair. My legs felt wrong, not weak, just disconnected, like my body and brain were running on a half-second delay. I grabbed my phone off the nightstand. I did not take my eyes off the doorway to the hall. The apartment felt different. That's the only way I can say it. The air felt used, the way a room feels when you come home and know immediately that someone has been in it, even before you see anything out of place. A warmth, a pressure, a stillness that isn't natural because it's the stillness of something that just stopped moving. I cleared every room the way I'd been trained to clear warehouses, slow, methodical, back to the wall. The bathroom window was unlocked. I never leave it unlocked. It's a habit. 6 years of security work, and I lock every window I touch. But the latch was flipped open, and the bottom of the window frame had a smear of dark grime on it, the kind you get on the outside of old buildings on the ledge, where pigeons sit and weather collects. On the inside of the frame, someone had come through that window, crossed my apartment, and sat in a chair next to my bed while I slept. They had sat there long enough to leave an impression in the foam. I called the police. They came, they looked, they filed a report. The bathroom window had partial ridge marks on the exterior sill, consistent with someone pulling themselves up. There was no footage from the building's single hallway camera, because it had been spray painted over at some point in the past 48 hours, something the landlord hadn't noticed. They never found anyone. The detective who spoke to me asked how long I thought I'd been asleep before I woke up. I told him, 6.5 hours. He didn't say anything right away. He just wrote something down. Then he asked, and the chair was still warm when you touched it. I hadn't told him. I touched it. He said one of the other tenants had reported hearing someone in the stairwell during the rain the previous night. Nobody she recognized. Just a shake going up. I moved out 3 weeks later. Different building, different neighborhood. I still check the chair in my new bedroom before I sleep. Every night. I push it to the far wall and I look at where it is and I note it. I note the position. I note the distance. Because I know what it means. When a chair moves on its own, it means it didn't move on its own. I'm a pediatric nurse. I've worked 12-hour shifts in a children's ICU for 8 years. I've sat with families during the worst moments of their lives and kept my hands steady and my voice level. I do not rattle easily. I do not spiral. I assess. I act. I move forward. I tell you this because what happened that rainy Wednesday night rattled me in a way that 8 years of the ICU never did. I had just come off a night shift. I got home around 7:15 in the morning, still in my scrubs, shoes wet from the parking lot puddles. My apartment building is an older 4-story walk-up. No elevator, narrow stairwell, mailboxes in the lobby that nobody checks anymore. I'd lived there for 2 years and knew maybe 3 of my neighbors by face, 1 by name. That was it. I made toast. I showered. I was in bed by 8. The knocking started at 9:43. I know the time because my phone was face up on the pillow and I'd been half drifting, not fully under. 3 knocks. Deliberate. Not urgent. The kind of knock that says, I know you're in there. I lay still. 3 more. Same pace. Same weight. I got up and went to the door. I looked through the peephole. A woman, mid-40s maybe. Dark hair, pulled back, wet from the rain. She was wearing a grey cardigan over a floral blouse, the kind of outfit that reads immediately as non-threatening. She was looking slightly downward, not directly at the peephole, which is what most people do, because they don't know exactly where it is. She knew exactly where it was. She was looking straight into it. I didn't open the door. I said, "Can I help you?" She smiled. Small, patient. "Hi, Sarah," she said. "I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm in 2C. My sink is leaking badly, and it's coming through the ceiling. I think it might be affecting your unit. Could I just take a quick look?" 2 things hit me at the same time. First, my sink was fine. I'd been in the kitchen 20 minutes earlier. Second, she knew my name. I had never spoken to the woman in 20C. I didn't know who lived in 20C. My name is not on my mailbox, not on my door. The lease is under my previous surname, which I stopped using 2 years ago after my divorce. I kept my voice even. I don't see any leak on my end. I'll call the landlord if something comes up. She tilted her head slightly. "Are you sure? It was really coming through. I'd hate for your floors to get damaged." "I'm sure," I said. "Thank you, though." A pause. "Okay," she said softly. "Sorry again, Sarah." I heard her footsteps move away down the hall. I stood at that door for a full minute without moving. Then I went to my kitchen and checked every inch of the ceiling. Dry. The sink was dry. The pipes were silent. I checked my bathroom ceiling. Dry. I told myself she'd probably seen my name on a package in the lobby at some point. People leave deliveries by the mailboxes. Maybe she'd seen a label. It was possible. I talked myself most of the way down. Then my phone buzzed. A text from my landlord. I'd saved his number when I moved in. I hadn't contacted him. He was texting me. "Hey, just a heads up. Got a call this morning from someone claiming to be a new tenant, asking which unit you were in. I didn't give it out. Figured I'd let you know. You okay?" I read it twice. Someone had called the landlord that morning asking for my specific unit, and an hour later a woman was at my door knowing my name. My hands were not steady when I typed back. I called the building's non-emergency line and reported it. While I was on the phone, something made me open my front door and look at the frame. I don't know what I was looking for. I wasn't thinking clearly. I found it at eye level on the door frame. The outside of it, a small piece of tape, clear, maybe an inch long, pressed flat against the wood. The kind of tape you'd use to tell if a door had been opened while you were gone. If the tape was broken, the door had been opened. If it was intact, it hadn't. It was intact, which meant whoever put it there hadn't gotten in yet. The police came within 20 minutes. They checked 2C, empty, not vacant, furnished, personal items inside, clearly lived in, but no one home. The tenant who actually lived there was a 61-year-old retired man who'd been at his son's house in another city for the past 4 days. He confirmed this over the phone. He did not know any woman in her 40s. He had not sent anyone to his apartment. She had a key to 2C, or she'd gotten in some other way. They found a disposable phone in the stairwell, 2 floors up, prepaid. 2 calls made from it that morning, one to my landlord, one to a number that came back as unregistered. They never identified her. What stayed with me wasn't the tape on the doorframe, though I still think about it. It was the way she said my name, both times Sarah. Not clipped, not casual, deliberate, like she'd been practicing it. Like my name in her mouth was something she'd been holding onto for a while before she finally got to use it. I have 3 dead bolts now. I have a camera on my door pointed at the hallway. I replaced the peephole with a wide-angle model, and I stopped putting my name anywhere. Packages go to a pickup locker 2 blocks away. Nothing on the mailbox. Nothing on the door, because somewhere out there, a woman in a grey cardigan knows my name and had a key to the apartment across the hall. And the police have no idea who she is. And she was at my door at 9:43 in the morning, patient, smiling, looking directly into the peephole. I'm a licensed electrician, 12 years in residential and commercial work. I've been inside thousands of homes, crawl spaces, attics, basements that haven't seen light in decades. I've worked in condemned buildings with floors that flexed under my boots and ceilings that dripped things I didn't identify. Uncomfortable spaces don't bother me. I stopped being precious about dark and cramped a long time ago. So, when I tell you that basement made every hair on my body stand up before I even reached the bottom step, I need you to sit with that for a second. The job was simple. A homeowner named Carol, late 50s, recently widowed, had called the company about a flickering issue in her kitchen and a dead outlet in her laundry room. The laundry room was in the basement. She had mentioned on the intake form that the house was old, built in the late 40s, and that the electrical panel was original. That kind of job usually takes a couple of hours. I'd done 100 of them. I arrived at 4 in the afternoon. The rain had been falling since noon, the steady soaking kind that turns lawns into sponge and makes basements smell like the earth is breathing. Carol let me in, showed me the kitchen first. The flicker was a loose, neutral, 10-minute fix. She made tea while I worked, and we talked the way you do with clients. Comfortable small talk, nothing significant. She seemed fine until I asked about the basement. Her face didn't fall. It didn't go pale. It just paused, like a video buffering for 1 frame before resuming. "It's through the kitchen," she said. "Door on the left. The pull chain for the light is about 4 feet in. Just reach straight ahead." She didn't offer to come with me. Just clients follow me to the work area. They hover, they ask questions, they want to know what's wrong. Carol refilled her tea and stood at the kitchen counter with her back to me. I opened the basement door. The smell came up immediately. Not mold, not standing water. Something older, closed air, and something underneath it that I still can't put a clean name on. Like the inside of an old wardrobe that hadn't been opened in years. Clothes and time and something faintly biological. I reached in and found the pull chain. The bulb was low wattage, maybe 40 watts, and it threw more shadow than light. Wooden stairs, open risers, the kind where you can see through the gaps between the steps to the floor below. I went down. The laundry area was at the far end. Washer, dryer, utility sink, panel box on the wall to the left. Standard. I set my bag down and opened the panel. That's when I noticed the chair. It was in the corner to my right. Facing the stairs, an old wooden kitchen chair, the kind with a spindle back and a flat seat. It was positioned with the precision of intention. not pushed against the wall, not angled carelessly, centered, squared to the staircase, like it had been placed by someone who wanted a clear, direct view of anyone coming down the steps. I looked at it for a moment and moved on. Old houses have old furniture in strange places. Basements collect things. I told myself that. I started checking the panel. 3 minutes in, I heard something above me. Not in the kitchen, not Carol's footsteps. Above me, but below the kitchen. In the ceiling of the basement, which would put it in the subfloor between the two levels. A shifting, a slow weight transfer, the kind of sound the person makes when they shift from one foot to the other, and the floor is thin enough to carry it. I went still. It stopped. I waited 20 seconds, went back to the panel. It happened again. Same area. Same slow, deliberate shift. I told myself it was the house. Old joists, old lumber, thermal movement from the rain pulling moisture into the wood. 100-year-old houses make sounds that have no explanation and no source. I know this. I've worked in enough of them. Then I looked at the chair again. The seat. There was a dent in the wood of the seat. Not damage. Wear. The kind of wear you get on a surface that has been used consistently for a long time. The finish was gone, in an oval shape in the center, rubbed down to bare pale wood. The arms were the same, finish worn away where hands had rested, thousands of times, gripping. Someone sat in that chair regularly, facing the stairs, waiting for someone to come down. The overhead subfloor shifted again, longer this time, a slow walk. 4 steps, then a stop. Directly above the panel where I was standing. My body made a decision before my brain finished its sentence. I closed the panel box, picked up my bag, and walked to the stairs at a pace that I will describe as controlled. Not running, controlled. I came up into the kitchen. Carol was exactly where I'd left her. Same spot at the counter, same tea in her hand. She turned and looked at me, and her eyes went to my bag, then back to my face. All done, she said. I need to come back with a second set of hands, I said. The panel's older than we thought. I want to make sure I've got the right parts before I open it up fully. She nodded slowly. Of course. I was at the front door in 30 seconds. In my truck. In the rain, I sat for a moment. I pulled out my work tablet and pulled up the job intake form. Listed under household members, it said. Just me. Recently widowed. I called my supervisor and told him I wasn't comfortable going back alone. He asked why. I told him about the subfloor sounds, the chair, the setup of it. He sent 2 of us the following week. Daytime. Different crew. The other electrician who went, a guy named Dennis who'd been doing this longer than me, called me that evening. He said they'd finished the job. He said the subfloor was solid. No structural issues. No explanation for the sounds I'd described. Then he said they'd found something when they moved the washer to check the outlet behind it. A sleeping bag. Rolled tight. Pushed against the wall in the gap between the machine and the corner. Clean. Recently used. A water bottle next to it, half full, and a small battery-powered lantern switched off with enough charge left to run for hours. Someone had been living in that basement. Whether Carol knew, Dennis didn't say. Whether it was connected to what I'd heard, nobody confirmed. I've driven past that house twice since then. I don't know why. Both times Carol's car was in the driveway. Both times the kitchen light was on. Both times I kept driving without stopping. I think about that chair every time I open a basement door now. The worn seat, the position of it, the fact that someone had sat in it so many times, so consistently, that the wood remembered them, facing the stairs, waiting. I'd been a hotel night auditor for 9 years. I worked the desk alone from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. I've handled medical emergencies, domestic disputes, guests who came down to the lobby at 3 in the morning and said things I'll never repeat. I've seen the version of people that only comes out at night when they think nobody credible is watching. 9 years of that, and I thought I had a complete catalogue of what people were capable of. I was wrong by one entry. It was a Tuesday in early November. The rain had been falling since mid-afternoon, the kind that doesn't dramatic, just commits. Steady, cold, relentless. We had maybe 60% occupancy, a business crowd mostly, a few families. Quiet night. The lobby was empty by midnight, and I'd settled into the rhythm of the audit, running reports, reconciling folios, the mechanical comfort of numbers lining up. At 1:58 a.m., the elevator opened on the 4th floor. I know this because the panel behind my desk shows elevator activity. A small display, easy to ignore, but I developed a habit of glancing at it. 4th floor, elevator called. Doors open, pause, doors close, elevator returns to lobby. Nobody got in. I noted it the way you note anything small and slightly off. Old elevator, faulty sensor, someone pressed the button by accident from inside a room. Happens. At 2:14 a.m. it happened again. 4th floor, doors open. Long pause, longer than the first time. Doors close, lobby return. I picked up the desk phone and called the 4th floor house phone, which sits in the alcove by the ice machine. It rings audibly in the corridor. I let it ring 12 times. No answer. No sound of a door opening. Nothing. I told myself a guest was having a sleepless night, wandering, changed their mind about going downstairs. Normal. I've seen it. At 2:31 a.m. I heard the stairwell door. My desk faces the lobby. The stairwell entrance is to my left, maybe 40 feet away. A heavy fire door with a slow hydraulic close. I heard it open, and then I heard it breathe shut the way it does. Slow. Heavy. I looked up. The lobby was empty. I waited for someone to come around the corner from the stairwell corridor into the lobby. The walk from that door to the lobby desk is maybe 15 seconds at a normal pace. Nobody came. I waited a full minute. Nothing moved. I came around the desk slowly and walked to the stairwell corridor. Empty. The fire door was fully closed. The corridor light was on. Motion activated. Stays on for 90 seconds after movement. It was on. Something had moved through there within the last 90 seconds. I went back to the desk. I pulled up the hallway camera feeds on my monitor. We have cameras on every floor. Lobby, stairwells, parking entrance. I pulled the 4th floor corridor. The feed showed the hallway. Empty. Doors closed on both sides. The elevator alcove at the far end. I scrolled back to 2:14, the second elevator call. The elevator doors opened. The hallway was empty. The doors stayed open for 41 seconds. I counted, and then closed. Just before they closed, at the very edge of the frame, at the far end of the corridor near the last room, 412 something moved. Not a full figure. Not someone stepping out. A shadow shift. The kind of movement you get when someone steps back around a corner just before a camera can fully capture them. Room 42012 was unoccupied. Had been unoccupied for 3 days, blocked from inventory for a maintenance issue. A reported smell that housekeeping had investigated and not fully resolved. I called my manager on the emergency line, told him what I'd seen. He told me to call the police for a welfare check and not to go up there alone. I did exactly that. 2 officers arrived within 10 minutes. I walked them to the 4th floor via the elevator. The corridor was still. Room 426 was at the end, door closed, the little privacy light dark, meaning the deadbolt wasn't thrown from inside. The officers knocked, announced themselves. No response. I keyed the door open with my master. The room was dark. The officers went in with flashlights. I stood in the doorway. The room had been reported blocked for a smell. Housekeeping had attributed it to a drain issue in the bathroom. Standing in the doorway, I could confirm the smell was real, stale, heavy, layered. But it wasn't a drain, it was a lived-in smell. The officers cleared the bathroom, the closet, under the bed. Nothing, but on the desk near the window. The desk that housekeeping would have cleared and wiped during the last room, cleaned 3 days ago. There were items. A plastic grocery bag, folded neatly. A square of cardboard that had been used as a kind of placemat. 2 empty water bottles stood upright. A small pile of clothing, folded, a dark hoodie on top, slightly damp, and underneath the desk, pushed back against the wall, a backpack, unzipped. Personal items inside. Someone had been staying in that room for multiple days, using the blocked status as cover, knowing that a maintenance-blocked room wouldn't get daily housekeeping, knowing how hotels work well enough to exploit the one gap that exists. One of the officers lifted the hoodie carefully. Underneath it was a hotel key card, not a current card. Our current cards are white with the hotel logo. This one was older, a previous design we'd retired 18 months ago. Someone had held onto a card from a previous stay, or found one, and had been using the blocked room's lock, which hadn't been rekeyed because it wasn't in the active inventory. The officers searched the building, stairwells, parking structure, laundry room, every unlocked service space. They found a man in the basement mechanical room, sitting behind the water heaters in the dark. He was calm when they found him. He didn't run, he didn't argue. He stood up slowly and put his hands out. He had 7 hotel keycards on him. Different hotels, different cities, all old designs. What I couldn't stop thinking about, what I still think about during slow nights when the elevator panel lights up and I glance at it, is the camera footage from 214, that shadow at the end of the corridor near room 42012, the way it pulled back just before the doors closed. He'd been watching the elevator, timing the camera, knowing exactly how long the doors stayed open before they closed. He'd done this before. Many times, in many buildings, and for those 41 seconds while the elevator doors were open on the 4th floor, he had been standing at the end of that corridor in the dark, perfectly still, watching them, waiting to see if anyone stepped out. I still worked the night audit. Same hotel, same shift. But I check that elevator panel every 10 minutes now, instead of glancing at it. And when the 4th floor lights up in the middle of the night, I don't tell myself it's a faulty sensor anymore. I pick up the phone first. I call the floor, and I wait to hear if anyone answers. If these stories got under your skin, smash that like button and subscribe so you never miss the next nightmare. Let me know in the comments which story hit hardest. Was it the chair pulled out next to the bed, the woman who knew the name she had no reason to know, the sleeping bag behind the washing machine, or the man standing in the dark watching elevator doors? And if you think rainy nights are terrifying, wait until you hear what happens when people get stranded. Click now to watch our next video on true stories from people who were never supposed to be alone that night. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.